Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of our podcast, AI EDU Unlocked. With me, Ashish Fernando. I'm your host, and a global survival guide for students is how I like to call myself. So, if you're a student listening, this is a place for you to find good information directly from the horse's mouth. Leaders from institutions who talk to us about not just the institution, but who they are and what kind of people, what kind of students actually connect well with the institution. If you're an institutional leader, this is a place for you to learn from other leaders in the space about how they go about their day-to-day life, what got them here, and get more into their personal story of why they're in this mission to help education globally. And joining us today is a friend of mine and a close ally and advisor, uh, Darren Wagner, who's the Vice President of Strategic Enrollment at Rowan University. Darren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on the podcast. This is an honor. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. And Darren, we're looking forward to learn from you about your personal story, understand what drives you, what gets you here, what gets you going at not just Rowan, but all these wonderful things you do. But I'm going to take a minute and introduce Darren and talk about some of the amazing things that Darren's doing. So, first of all, Darren, of course, in his current role as VP of Strategic Enrollment Management, is focused on improving enrollment at Rowan, not just from a number standpoint, but also from a quality standpoint, for which Darren actually, I've personally seen Darren do this. He's a very hardworking individual who travels across the globe, meets with agencies, consultants, students, you name it, he does it. Whatever it takes to get that student who deserves the right to education, a right to good education, into Rowan's enrollment funnel, and then get admitted and get a life-changing experience at Rowan. Darren's been doing this for about 20 years, Darren. That's right. More
I've
than
had a variety of career transitions, but I've been in higher education since 2001. Yeah, 2001
yeah,
was where I started
yeah.
in higher education.
Fantastic. So about 20 plus years. And before that, Darren's been working at tech companies. Darren's actually one of the few people that I know who have a tech background, who have an extreme desire to build tech, to look at technology in the new way that it is. And it's not just ChatGPT as everybody thinks of technology today. But he's been doing technology. He's been the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer for software companies. But Darren's been close to education for a long time, especially international, focused on international students. And Darren's been also adjunct faculty back in the day at Penn State, which is a very interesting place. I've been there, and that's where, Darren, you've lived a chunk of your life because you also did your bachelor's and master's degree at Penn State. So we want to talk about that too. But overall, thank you for everything you're doing for this industry.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for the introduction. It's been my pleasure. It's been my passion. I'm really really interested in this industry. I think I told you in earlier conversations, I was a first generation student, and it didn't go real smooth. So as a first generation student, I won't date myself too much, but pre 2000s, the mechanisms weren't in place like they are today to really support students. I remember in my orientation, we got this standard speech of look to your left and look to your right, and one of the three of you won't be here at the end of this first year. And that was really kind of
Yeah.
eye-opening and somewhat shocking to me. And I've taken
Yeah.
a lot of those experiences and lessons, uh, when I was in graduate school, I had the opportunity to do a semester abroad, and that really ignited my passion for international education. And so I'm fortunate to carry a lot of uh, experiences with me as I pursue my passion in education.
I love it. Yeah, it's interesting that you said look to your left, look to your right, and one of you won't be here. I mean, I always, I've always pondered about this for a while that uh, you do all of this, in some cases hard work, in some cases luck. There's a lot of reasons why students land up where they land up, but mostly hard work. And you go to a Harvard and it doesn't end there. Uh, it's not like, okay, yes, I've gotten into the gates of Harvard and now my life is going to be successful. There's still cases of people dropping out, some dropping out and becoming successful, some dropping out and not ending up anywhere. But talk to us a little bit about the journey from there uh, into education, and how you got into this role. Love to hear.
Coming out of my master's, my MBA, I was in the corporate world. I was in consumer packaged goods, where I was basically classical brand training, product management, brand management, and enjoyed that immensely. It was a wonderful learning experience. But I had the opportunity to come back to Penn State, and it was at a time at the university when they were looking to transition into more of a business model. They were looking to take they were launching their online programs in World Campus. They were looking to generate revenue through incremental income streams. And it was a really wonderful time to be part of that institution as they were looking to evolve. And so I spent about 10 years at Penn State working in their outreach group, where we were dealing with underserved populations, marginalized populations, and not truly the core of the university, but we had everything from English language programs to ag programs. And it really gave me an understanding of the diversity of the education market and the needs beyond the traditional student that comes in as a high school graduate and pursues a prescribed path. That there's certainly a percentage that follow that, but there's a much more meandering path for a very large percentage of the population. And trying to optimize is not quite the right term, but to
Hmm.
enhance that path, add value in that path. And coming out of my MBA, I was very interested in operations and technology and operationalize these paths for efficiency and effectiveness. That was the type of thing that really caught my interest and my attention. And being able to put those business practices in place in higher education for the betterment of the student experience.
Yeah, love it. Does your life at Penn State as a student influence how you now look at it from the flip side of what the student experience should be?
Well, absolutely. I talked to you about the look right, look left, and my whole orientation and onboarding, if you will. Uh, the freedom I had, but also the lack of guardrails. I was my own worst enemy. And so all of this, all my experience, and a lot of it at Penn State really informs my thinking now. And again, the first generation student, the opportunity to do the international engagement, uh, learning how to interact with faculty and the administration at the institution. These were all things that I came in with very little understanding of. Uh, and so these are all lessons I take and try to build upon as I go through my career.
Fantastic. That's good to know, Darren. And now with Rowan, you've been with Rowan for now how many years?
Pushing 3 years in this
Three.
role
Yeah.
as vice president. Prior to this, I consulted with the institution on marketing and operational things around admissions and marketing.
So tell our audience a little bit about maybe some, examples or some of the work that you've done from the time you've come till now, and experiments, if any, that have helped shape the enrollment numbers because I know Rowan's starting to do really well, especially with international students. And a lot of schools actually struggle. So maybe some words of advice from some experiences you've had.
Certainly. Yeah, Rowan is doing very well. We're in the past few years, we've been in the top 5 fastest growing institutions in the country. And as we've discussed, our international population is growing exponentially coming out of COVID. And I know a lot of other schools are experiencing that as well. But this growth provides challenges as well as opportunities. And one of the things that I bring to the role is the data and the technology background. I am not the most technology savvy individual, but I have a good grounding, and a lot of it is in the data and in the use of data. And those are some of the things that we've been implementing and experimenting with, whether it's from our marketing standpoint or doing modeling for scholarships. So our use of data has really expanded, and our our data hygiene is another thing that has really expanded. The technology company I worked with was really about data integration, data management. And so I came in with a background of how to get the most out of your data, how to connect your data sources for a more comprehensive picture of your prospective students, your existing students, and all other elements within there. And we have spent a lot of time, energy, and resources into enhancing our data systems, which really have allowed us to generate that flywheel of success.
Hmm.
We model everything from our scholarship programs to our student success, obviously with our marketing activities, and even the way we position our staff to support, whether it's different programs, different countries of origin, a wide variety of delivery and recruitment channels as well.
Talk about budgets a little bit to me. Do you think doing the things that you've done requires a lot of operational budgets, which a lot of people think it does, or you found unique ways of tackling that?
I think it's a mix. I mean, one of the things that I look at is marginal incremental improvements. I mean, we're not trying to revamp our student information system. We're trying to make refinements, adjustments, and things that help us do our job better, that are, represent technology accelerators or facilitators, work our way up the value chain through technology. So in some cases, and I guess it depends on how you define budget, this takes staff, experienced quality staff, which don't come cheap in this day and age. So there is that budget component. When we talk about marketing and recruitment, we look at, it's always better to have budget than to not have it, obviously.
Sure.
But there are things that can be done without great expense if you have the right people, the right experience, the right partners too. I'm a big believer in outsourcing from a technology standpoint as well. We don't have to create our own code here. We can work with expertise on the outside to help us and be our accelerators, our force multipliers, if you will, and have them be responsible for staying cutting edge or bleeding edge with the technology, and us just understanding how to harness it for our own needs and our own objectives.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, a lot of schools think that budgets are a limiting factor, especially with international, because they think, they have to travel, and of course, travel is a part of it, but it's not the biggest consumer of budgets, especially when, now the borders are so much closer. You can connect with agencies. I know you connect with a lot of agencies, and you're a people person. You believe in building relationships and growing them. And would you say that that's a big part of you as a person and why you're successful in your role?
I would say that has a lot to do with it. I love to engage people. I love to collect stories. I love to share stories. And I've seen in my international travel that our partners, agents, and vendors want to have an engagement. They want to understand. They want to feel valued. They want to know they're valued, not just feel valued. They want to know they're valued and they're part of your organization, of uh, of your overall plan and vision. And there's no better way for me to personally do that than to go meet with them and literally break bread with them in many cases. As I visit to India, everybody wants to eat, and everybody wants to
Yeah, that's
share
right.
food.
Yes, it's a big
It,
part of
it,
the
it,
culture.
and we sit down, and for me, it's business and personal because these are wonderful experiences for me. I learn every trip that I make. And I learn about how my institution is being viewed globally. I learn about how our policies and procedures are being viewed and how they can be adjusted. I learn about how I'm being viewed and how I want to be viewed, what I want our brand to be, what I want my brand as a representative to be. I'll just give you one quick example. I've made some changes since I took over international recruitment. One of the things was to implement an application fee, which because we
Mhm.
do foreign credential evaluations and we bear the cost of that, this is something I use to offset that. So that was very important from a budgetary and an operational standpoint for me. But when I
Interesting.
got to meet with students for the first time in India, it was made clear to me that it wasn't just a fee to recover costs to these students. They purchased a service. They purchased the processing of their application for that. And there was an expectation of service coming out of that. So when we were still working on less of a speed to decision model, which is something we've changed, we would collect the fee and we would go along our merry way and process in reasonable timeframes. But the student or the customer, in this case, expectation was one of service. It's been 2 weeks. Why don't I have a decision? And they were able to communicate to me that this was not just a fee they paid. It was not a a way to make sure you were serious about your application, which is another factor of this. But it was the purchase of value, of processing. And so I was able to bring that back, communicate that, and look at the way we did things differently so that we provided the value and the service that these students were purchasing, were paying for.
Mm.
And that type of engagement doesn't happen for me over Zoom. Now, I love what we're doing here, and I think there's certainly a lot of utility and a place for it. But when I'm on location in country, I learn things every trip, every day, whether it's culturally or from a business standpoint or just about the people I'm doing business with. It's just amazing to me.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, Zoom has been the order of the day since COVID, but I feel like 2, 3 years in now, people realize that it's the human touch is always going to be there, right? And we try to manage business on Zoom, and then people thought, oh my God, it saves us cost of travel, it saves us so many things, we can stay at home. But now everybody wants to do it again. They want to go travel and meet people, and because that's how we've seen it actually work, and it works. So. Yeah, I've been traveling a lot, and I know you have been. We almost bumped into each other at a random United club at Newark Airport. So you've been flying out a bit these days, right?
Yeah, and I look at it as an investment. Meeting your partners, meeting the students on their terms. Again, you talked about food being part of the culture of India. Uh, Meeting over a meal, having a casual
Mhm.
discussion and a business discussion. It's just I don't know that there's a good way to substitute for that. And to the budgets, I don't think budgets are certainly an issue. But I think lack of creativity is also an issue, right? There are a
Mm.
lot of ways things can be done, and you can approach them creatively as opposed to how much money can I throw at the problem. It's always nice to have dollars to throw at your issues, but I think it's almost more important in many cases to be able to approach these challenges creatively and try to figure out a solution without just money at the problem. I don't know how else to
Yeah.
state that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Of course. And yeah, coming back to the point on food, what's been your favorite Indian food?
Biryani. Yeah, it just
Yeah,
that's absolutely. And everywhere I go, everyone claims to have the best. So
that's true.
I'm
Yes,
very
it's
happy to
ego.
sample no matter where I go. And you know what? I'm not sure which one's the best, but I haven't found one I didn't like yet. I can tell you that much.
That's
So
that's
uh,
interesting.
now it
Yeah, you
and
go from north to south, and there's so many different forms of it, different colors, flavors, different types of rice they use. Yeah.
I love to travel. I travel personally. I travel for work, and these are always adventures for me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I might have 8 to 12 meetings in a day, but there's adventure in there. Getting from point to point. My first trip to India started. I landed, and within 2 hours there was a 6.2 earthquake in Delhi. That's how I
Oh,
woke up.
wow.
Uh, and then as we were going from agency to agency, our Uber had a car crash, which in this amazing traffic, which was not surprising to me at all. And then I was in a tuk-tuk at high speed to get back to my next meeting. And our consultant who we were with was looking at me like, when is Darren going to lose his mind? And I was like, Mark, don't worry. This
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here for this. This is what we're doing. This is part of the experience. It'll all work out. It'll be smooth. We went into the next meeting, told our story, got on with business.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't think there's a good substitute for face to face in travel. Again, I learn something every trip, every day of every trip.
Out of all your travels, the people you've met, agencies, students, other folks in the industry, does any story come to mind? Somebody who's moved the way you look at the mission, in any way?
I think it's the collection of student engagements because every story has some consistent elements across the students, but also some unique elements, whether I'm reviewing a transcript and talking to them about what their goals are. I've talked to some incredible students, high achieving students. I've talked to students who are working towards a goal, but aren't the same quality of students as the rest, but they still have goals and aspirations and are willing to work hard. And how are we making opportunity for everybody? What support services? What can I do to facilitate their achievement? And so, from the student standpoint, I don't know that there's one that stands out. Uh, well, my engagements with you have always been fantastic, and your approach to technology, you as a founder, I find fascinating. I find all founders fascinating because being in the technology business, so I enjoy and value
Appreciate that.
all of our engagements and trying to wrap my head around your vision. Not that it's hard to comprehend, but you're steps ahead. You're looking to the horizon in a very profound way, in my view. And the way you're linking pieces together, pieces of the puzzle, I think is fascinating. So, yeah, you're one of the big
Thank you.
influencers from my international experience and the work that you're doing. Uh, my engagement with your team, and I don't mean this as a shameless plug as we're on here, but has always been insightful in how we're working with the platform. I've had other agents in country who are just amazing hosts and amazing business people that these aren't people who are pigeonholing themselves in one area. They have 3, 4 companies, and they're working on
Hmm.
how to forward and backward integrate all the aspects of what they're doing. The entrepreneurial spirit, we talked before we got on the call about my experience in Hyderabad. The entrepreneurial spirit and the drive of the group I've seen in Hyderabad and Gujarat and some of these other regions is amazing. So yeah, everybody, I take what I can. I'm selfish that way. I take what I can from every engagement and try to learn and make myself a little bit better.
Amazing. I appreciate the plug, Darren. You've been a great advisor and a good sounding board for a lot of the things we do at iSchool. So I would say the respect is mutual. And I think, yeah, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, yes, it's been very interesting. The journey's been very interesting because you start out with a mission and you want to change the world and you want to do 20,000 different things, and then you have to kind of mellow down and focus on the two, three things where you think you can make that impact. And so I've gone through that journey of saying, I had this like big flywheel of all the things that we wanted to do on day one at iSchool. Uh, but the market, the ecosystem's so big that if you try to tackle everything at a time and try to solve all of enrollment's challenges, you're not going to be able to solve any one perfectly. So, even like having chats with you has kind of helped in that kind of journey. So I thank you for that as well.
No, I appreciate that. And on a much smaller scale, I try to envision my role as something similar. I'm not an entrepreneur, but I have some entrepreneurial spirit. I'm an entrepreneur as far as the institution is concerned. And to your point of you have all these things that you want to accomplish. All right, well, now we have decisions, right?
Hmm.
What do we need resources for? What can we reasonably accomplish in a reasonable time frame? What adds value to the student experience, to the institution? What are some of the dare to be great situations that we want to pursue and try to get those home runs as opposed to the incremental improvements, all the while keeping the business running, right?
Yeah.
Keeping things moving smoothly. And that's always one of our challenges, whether it's managing staff, managing budget, managing internal relationships, managing external relationships. And then you have to carve out time for the big ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about big ideas and technology and entrepreneurship, all of that comes together in just two words in the modern day, AI. Uh, and everybody's talking about it, throwing those words around like it's just sliced bread. And I would love to understand, you being from a tech background and in this industry for a bit. Do you think it's really gonna shape how we look at enrollment and education in general, or you think we're going through a hype cycle that's gonna probably end? Like, would love to hear your thoughts on all of this modern day hoo-ha.
My thoughts are all over the place, to be quite honest. Right?
Hmm.
I have a major fundamental stream of thought, but every day you're confronted with a new opportunity, a new challenge, and everyone's talking to you about AI. And as I think you touched on earlier, most of it's around Chat GPT. That's what's you're getting a lot of people. I've learned this through my marketing experience. Everyone thinks they understand marketing. Everyone thinks they understand admissions. But if you get beyond the superficial, there's art, there's science to these things. And it's the same thing with the implementation of technology. Uh, is it going to impact our industry? Absolutely. I mean, I'm a believer that this is a paradigm shift for us, and I want to embrace a paradigm shift. You can be somebody who embraces a paradigm shift, or you can be a naysayer. If you're a naysayer, you got a shot. Maybe if it fails, you're right in the end. But if you're an embracer of the paradigm shift, you can impact it, you can guide it, you can mold it for your institution, and if you're somebody in a higher profile position like yourself, you might be able to mold the broader adoption of it. But we're seeing impact every day, and most of it is currently around the impact of Chat GPT, right? Whether it's uh, concerns that the faculty have about the use of it, whether
Mm.
it's letters I get from applicants. Each of these technologies, whether it's Claude or OpenAI, they have a little bit of a watermark, right? You could get a feel when you're getting some of these crafted documents. So we're trying to figure out how to manage those things, but we also want to harness it for things like tutoring. Again, data modeling. Data modeling has been key to what
Mm.
we're doing, and I really want to use AI for data access, data modeling, and advance the machine learning that we're doing. Uh, to me, it's a better use, an advanced use of data. And I know that might be an oversimplification, but I've been a data guy for years, whether it's access to data, how to analyze data. And the fact that we can almost literally ask questions of our spreadsheet now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that to me, and that might seem a little bit on the administrative or tactical side, and it probably is, but that's huge in what we're doing. I mean, we're in a business, we're in a numbers game here in many ways, how to make the most out of the resources we have, and understanding and analyzing our data is huge in that. And so how we're using AI for that is something that I'm pushing hard and trying to advance. But you also have the concerns of the institution, right? So, you know, there's a variety of challenges here. How does the institution want to adopt this technology? How does it want to embrace it? How does it want to be seen as embracing it?
Are there any changes Rowan is making in terms of how they're addressing that whole AI hype cycle, new programming or policies around use of AI? Would love to hear.
We're in the process. We are still an institution of higher education, and we don't pivot as quickly as some technology companies may. So there's a lot of conversation on the academic side as well as the administrative side about how to do this, what's acceptable, what isn't. If we embrace it here, is it an endorsement of it there? And so there are daily conversations, if not hourly conversations, all across the institution. And I think these are going to coalesce in very short order into a rough framework of how we want to do it. But the good and the bad of that right now is it's a little bit open, right?
Mm.
We can do some trial and error. We can bring some things in, and we're still very much at a 101 level, but we have aspirations of
Yeah.
getting much more advanced. I don't believe we're in a wait and see mode, but we're trying to catch up, as a lot of people are. I listen to your podcast and a variety of other podcasts, and every day there's a new platform, a new agent, a new use case. So
There's a
trying
lot that's thrown at you every day, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So trying to sift through what has the most value to us, what has the best opportunity, what's feasible. If you look at your kind of your 2x2, what's feasible and has impact.
Mm,
How are we assessing those things? And I
mm.
really want to look for things that allow us to move up on the value chain. Right? There's a lot of talk about what jobs it replaces. Does it replace a job, or does it require you to get a different skill set to utilize the technology as opposed to be replaced by the technology? And I'm a big
Yeah.
believer in figuring out how to utilize the technology so that we can move up in the value chain. What we're doing, the activities that we're undertaking have more value. We can do better analysis. We can make better decisions. And so, I mean, that still feels very 101 to me,
Got
but
it.
we're trying to advance. You and I have had conversations about how we can use this technology to replace some mundane processes that we have, or cost intensive processes. And so that's really where we're starting. Uh, and I see, outside counsel, internal counsel, whether it's our faculty or advisors, helping us mold our broader strategy. But along the way, there's a lot of learning for us, for me personally, my staff to do, to make sure we're leveraging this to the best of our ability. And I don't feel we need to be bleeding edge here, but I want us to be early adopters of as much of this technology and participate in this paradigm shift as much as we can.
Fantastic, fantastic. My usually my final question is what's ahead for the institution? I think you've answered a lot of that. So my final question would be, in a decade from now, where's Darren gonna be? Like, and not in terms of the place or anything, but like in terms of the mission and the mindset of like where things around you are going to evolve 10 years from now.
Uh, yeah, where is Darren going to be? I, I I don't know. But what my vision for the institution, the academy is one of flexibility. We are a contributor to the student's education, to the student's experience. We don't need to capture them, keep them here for 4 or 7 years or whatever it
Mm.
is, and hold them only within our sphere of influence. I see agreements, partnerships, a global education as part of what the direction I want to take, where I want to be. Whether a student does an amount of time here, in Vietnam, in India, as part of the globalization, which I know we've been talking about for decades. I'm going to globalize the education as well so that we're positioning people to participate in this no matter where they are, because the world's not getting bigger, it's only shrinking. And the preparing students for that world, and having a vision of what that might be. And I'm also well aware very few game plans survive first engagement, right? I have a vision
Yeah.
now. By the time we're in a position to implement it, the world will have changed around us. So I guess where I want to be is open, flexible, and advocating for the students.
Love it, Darren. And I can actually see you there. I mean, the passion that you have for the student and for the space, I can definitely see you. I mean, you're already an advisor to us and the company and me myself, but just I see you doing that on a much larger scale for the industry. So thank you for all the good work that you've been doing, not just at Rowan, but at scale across the board. So it's been always a pleasure interacting with you.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure and my passion. I mean, I've enjoyed this. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm always happy to engage on these topics. They're interesting
Fantastic.
and educational for me day in, day out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Darren. And with that, we will conclude our podcast for the day. This is AI EDU Unlocked with me, Ashish Fernando, and our special guest for today, Darren Wagner, who heads enrollment for Rowan University. Thank you so much, Darren, for your time. And for all our students and education leaders, if you have any questions, comments, please post that and I'll make sure that it reaches Darren and we get a response from him. If you have questions around how Darren's doing certain things with enrollment, how Rowan's really advancing and becoming one of the top 5 highest growing institutions from an enrollment standpoint across the United States, I'm sure Darren would love to answer those questions, and I will be a catalyst for the communications and conversations. Thank you so much, everybody. And with that, we'll sign off for the day.